Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. So to say that I have some mixed feelings about this week would be understating it. On the one hand, I'm reasonably happy with a few shifts in our top 10. We got a returning number 1 that I actually like, and it looks like it'll have some real staying power too. On the other hand, this was the week Migos came out in force, and nearly half our new arrivals involved them, and that's not counting another song that seemed even destined to further sink my regards to this artist into the earth's crust. But we'll get to that in a little bit. In the meantime, our top 10. Yes, as I already alluded to, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran is back at number 1. And while it is a pretty close race, it's not quite as dominant in YouTube as it was. It's lagging in streaming and it lost the sales lead. It's still such an airplay powerhouse that there's nothing close to beating it right now. But Bad and Bougie by Migos and Lil Uzi Vert held up strong too at number 2, boosted by the release of the album, dominant in streaming. If it only had a little bit more radio and sales traction, it could have done a fair bit better. But this discounts the third major competitor, I Don't Want to Live Forever by Zayn and Taylor Swift, which rose up to number 3 on airplay, huge sales, considerable streaming, and YouTube, although not quite the level I expected to push it higher, which I thought was interesting, is getting up there though. Now all this activity leaves Bad Things by Machine Gun Kelly and Camila Cabello in an awkward place. It's got airplay, it's got sales, and it got up to number 4, but its momentum is sputtering and streaming is not getting better. It would need that. I don't really see this going higher. Then we got the slip for Closer by the Chainsmokers and Halsey down to number 5. Yes, it tied the record for the most weeks ever spent in the top 5 on Billboard, but it's probably not staying there. It's bleeding in every category, especially airplay. Unless there's serious weakness beneath it, it's dropping hard. And you know, that might be possible. Don't Want to Know by Maroon 5 and Kendrick Lamar started to slip on airplay, which is really all it has. And though it rose up to number 6, it's more because another song lost harder. And it's the same case for Starboy by The Weeknd featuring Daft Punk. Yes, it regained up to number 7 on generally being a healthier song across the board, but it is still losing airplay. It's not healthy either. Then we got Fake Love by Drake at number 8, which is kind of in a weird place because radio was wavering and sales and streaming aren't entirely solid right now. It only rose because Black Beatles by Ray Sherman and Gucci Mane utterly collapsed to number 9. It's bleeding in every category, especially on the radio, and the shift to Pandora streams have definitely not helped it here. It's almost anticlimactic that Star Steer Beautiful by Alessia Cara held on to number 10. Yes, it was losing airplay too, and the sales and streaming are miserable, but it's got enough radio presence that it's not going away anytime soon, unless it starts to really slip. Now granted, when we take a look at our losers and dropouts, that could very well be possible, because this week was wild across the board. The dropouts, they aren't all that surprising here. Chill Bill by Rob Stone, Jay Davis, and Spooks really did better than I ever could have expected. Cold Water by Major Lazer, Justin Bieber, and Mia, it had a solid run, and I'm not exactly complaining that Sneakin' by Drake and 21 Savage, or Song for Another Time by Old Dominion took serious hits to drop out. But our losers, well, let's start off with our cases of continued lost momentum, with Castle on a Hill by Ed Sheeran falling to 50, Redbone by Childish Gambino down to 94, and a slightly better note, No Heart by 21 Savage and Metro Boomin down to 73. And hip-hop continues to not exactly have a good week here, with all the gains for Goosebumps by Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar evaporating to 67, Selfish by PNB Rock dropping to 78, and On the Way by Luke Nasty falling to 92. But if country thought it got a boost last week, then it got a rude awakening here. A Guy with the Girl by Blake Shelton drops early to 52, along with 80s Mercedes by Maren Morris to 89, though you can't really call that country, and then expected losses for Wanna Be That Song by Brett Eldridge to 85, or Dirty Laundry by Carrie Underwood to 90. The rest of our losses, they're more on the pop side that just seem to be rotating out or just naturally losing a little bit more steam. How Far I'll Go by Ollie Cravallo down to 75, Fresh Eyes by Andy Grammer dropping back to 91, and Sex With Me by Rihanna going to 96. Of course, then we cut to our gains, and wow, the majority of these just suck. I'll give points to Despacito by Louis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee continuing up to 61. Missed it in my gains last week there, my apologies. Along with Down by Marion Hill surging to 37, but the rest of these? Okay, maybe a few points for Bruno Mars on That's What I Like, but when the only gain getting traction here is Issues by Julia Michaels off its debut, that's not a good sign. Nor is Congratulations by Post Malone and Quavo going up to 39 with another big boost. Or The Weeknd by Brantley Gilbert getting the only country boost to 69. Or T-Shirt by Migos cracking cracking the top 20 at 19. In that case, I might give it a slight pass. The album dropped, we got a lot more Migos to talk about. But I'm not giving a pass to utter crap like Make Me Cry by Noah Cyrus and Labyrinth. At least her sister was interestingly bad instead of just this incompetent. Or Play That Song by Train up to 41, a song that gets all the more nauseating every time I hear it. I'd say we'd have returning entries to blunt off some of these, except we have no returning entries this week, so let's just go to our new arrivals, starting off with number 100, Some Kind of Drug by G-Eazy featuring Marc E. Bassy. So here's the truth. I have no idea why G-Eazy is stuck around. Hell, I think you can make a compelling argument that he doesn't really have the same prominence he did for the first half of 2016, especially when it seems like there's so many more boring white rappers who flooded in to show how little he stood out. So for his fourth single from his album, When It's Dark Out, he teamed up with Marc E. Bassy. You might remember their last collaboration, You and Me, a lousy slice of obnoxious reggae that's exactly as bad as you don't remember it. For this now, well, it doesn't irritate me as much as You and Me did, but I get the stark feeling this is nowhere near as sexy as either of these two guys think it is. I'm not going to deny that G-Eazy's flow here is good, and the gentle sandy bounce of the beat with the waves of synth, that has potential. But what loses me here is a complete lack of imagination. The love as drugs metaphor has been so thoroughly driven into the ground that to see G-Eazy use it for such a very basic sex jam that it came but ring as incredibly generic, and Marc E. Bassy's natural squawk on the hook that's really nasal does nothing for the vibe. It's not precisely a bad song, but there's a reason I forgot these guys' last song altogether, and I'll probably forget this one too. Number 99, Amante by Nicky Jam. I keep finding myself thinking that I should care a lot more about Nicky Jam than I do. His smash hit in 2015, El Perdón, didn't get higher than 65 on the Hot 100, yet somehow made the bottom of the year-end list that year. And while I didn't really care much for his follow-up single, apparently it got enough traction worldwide to make YouTube Rewind's video in 2016. So I'm not exactly surprised he's got a new song in the Hot 100 off his album Phoenix, which dropped a few weeks back. But I'm also not entirely surprised that it's not doing it for me. I didn't mind the production, the rubbery bounce off the beat and the piano melody is catchy enough, and Nicky Jam does have charisma to anchor a song like this, but man, you really don't want to say what he's saying into English. Once again, it's another song about stealing a girl from her boyfriend, this time purposefully full of dissing this guy and saying he now owns this girl, which is more than a little bit obnoxious when you realize the first verse opens up with Nicky Jam saying he was tired of lovers and is now looking to just rub this in her boyfriend's face. It's sour in a way that doesn't match the instrumental tone at all, which for me, yeah, okay, I might be missing something in the translation, but not doing it for me. Sorry. Number 93, Culture by Migos featuring DJ Khaled. Young rich nigga in the wrong. That's a nigga, no raccoon. Spend the Eminem and Jones. Took a trip to Cancun. Culture album coming soon. And so our adventures with Migos begin, starting off with a song that was rumored to land on DJ Khaled's Major Key album last year. Otherwise, given that DJ Khaled neither produced or has much to say on this song, why else is he even here? But even he is starting to feel like a parody of himself as he references his own Snapchat meme before Migos Drake into your standard stealing of girls, huge wealth, killing people, etc. We've heard this before. And sure, Quavo's bars have a bit of wit, but when you follow it with Takeoff talking about breaking the girl's back that he's screwing, I'm left more than a little bit ambivalent to the rest of the content. But fine, hyperbolic brag rap, it's got its place if the delivery was energetic, which it isn't, or if the beats go hard, and here, yeah, I can't say I'm feeling this. The trap snares and the bass swamps out that tinny little fragment of melody with extended auto-tune drones all around it. And when you consider how much of Migos' flows just start to run together, yeah, not really into this. Number 88, Scared to Be Lonely by Martin Garrix and Dua Lipa. Of the songs that came out this week, I'd argue this is the one I was looking forward to the most. And the hilarious thing, I wouldn't even say I'm a huge fan of either artist. I've always found Marc and Garrix makes EDM that's good without ever getting great. And while I featured Dua Lipa on my world hit before so many else found out about her, she's had an inconsistent track record for me. I still don't think she'll ever be able to top Be The One in 2015, and Blow Your Mind Moi was not the way to do it. Really poor follow-up. Thankfully, Scared to Be Lonely is in the former's ballpark, as Garrix is smart enough to Dua Lipa's deeper tones, a lot more room to breathe against the choppy waves of squealing synth against the sharper trap snares. Hell, one of the reasons that Garrix has tended to work for me in recent months is that he's just got a little bit more taste to hold back on some of these songs, and with the deeper strings and the bass on this song, it actually pays off pretty well. And hell, even though the lyrics play in your typical bad relationship song territory that's so damn common these days, Dua Lipa goes past a lot of the angst and straight to the question of why they keep on doing this, be it just reckless passion or just a fear of loneliness. You know what, that anchors the drama, and honestly puts it head and shoulders above so many of its contemporaries. In other words, well, looks like my expectations paid off for once. Damn good song, I like it. Number 72, Get Right Witcha by Migos.
Bad bitches, fuck 'em, then dismiss 'em. Bad, woo. I ain't really here to take no pictures. Flash, middle finger up. The system. Fuck 'em.
Okay, here's a question. I know that Migos are generally considered over the top with their drug dealer, violent criminal, nailing your chick rhetoric, but I'm having a really hard time getting a handle on the mood of this song. If it's trying to be dark or imposing, look, the main backing tones are the flattened, breathy flutes, the piano, and overly compressed vocals against the chunky bass. None of this is anything I haven't heard before from these guys, and repetition does a number on any sense of menace it might have. And again, it goes nowhere near as hard as a lot of the hip-hop I otherwise cover. Unlike Run the Jewels, it sounds like none of their criminal behavior is all that fun despite all the bragging. And as for the content, well, Quavo is using racist slurs for Chinese people, Offset is rhyming words with himself again, and all of them are using hashtag rap as if it's 2010. There's no intensity like the best of crunk music, and the wordplay, it's bargain barrel at best. In other words, pass. Number 71, I'm Better by Missy Elliott featuring Lamb.
I got food in my dining room. I'm better, I'm better, I'm better. It's another day, another chance. I wake up, I wanna dance. So as long as I got my friends, I'm better, I'm better, I'm better.
Okay, seriously, is Missy Elliott ever gonna release an actual album ever again? Just like Where They From with Pharrell in 2015, I'm not seeing any album announcements since she dropped the cookbook 12 years ago. Now, I wasn't really hugely fond of that last single in 2015, mostly because of the production, and here, well, it's pretty much everything. Not only is Missy Elliott hopping on the Migos flow, somehow we got production that's even more bare bones and basic than their material, with a clunky bass, bare bones burbles of synth, and at all of a tempo that does nothing to flatter any of them or add any intensity to the delivery. That's before you get to the content, and sorry Missy, you're not ranting like you're Kanye on this song. And watching my body like he's watching Scandal? What, with general disinterest as the plot continues to get more and more asinine? The song doesn't just sound bad and a tremendous disappointment compared to Missy's best, it sounds borderline unfinished, going for a popular flow and style in a way that she's never needed to do before. And yeah, she's got charisma, that can redeem a lot, but yeah, sorry. Definitely not a fan of this. Number 66, Run Up by Major Lazer featuring PARTYNEXTDOOR and Nicki Minaj.
I'm a renegade. 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 I'm a renegade.
So this is a sort of collaboration where I had no idea what to expect. Major Lazer has been generally tolerable over the past few years, and while Nicki Minaj has always been inconsistent, she at least has charisma, something PARTYNEXTDOOR has never had. So with this, well, I can certainly say it's distinct, I can say that. For one, the production feels oddly cluttered in a way that almost seems to be going for an Afrobeat vibe with the louder, eclectic percussion lines. But what is it though, the burbling squeals and noises that comprise what I think is the main melody clashing with the stuttered clap on the hook? It doesn't really come together there. And of course, PARTYNEXTDOOR's droning and underwritten bars aren't engaging at all. The entire song really does feel like a warm-up for Nicki Minaj's verse, and okay, when she's rapping, I'm on board with this. But her flat patois and singing midway through her verse just kills any momentum there. There's no outwardly bad lines in my opinion, but the switch back to PARTYNEXTDOOR for the outro does not help here. Really, Nicki Minaj could have handled this entire song and I think nobody would complain. As a whole, look, I don't dislike this, but if I'm looking at collaborations that Nicki has made with EDM producers, I'll stick with Hey Mama any day of the week. Number 62, Call Casting by Migos.
How many chickens you can get them, whichever way nigga trap turns Zaxby's. I beat the pot with a passion. Beat it 100 acres on a mansion. I dab in the latest fashion. Eat it up, bitches need a call casting.
Well, okay, of the Migos songs I've covered thus far on this list, this is probably one I like the most. The melody feels more developed in the piano and organ and the deeper squonks anchoring the trap beat, although I will say it's a little bit weird how the vocals are overlaid over the verses in order to sound more imposing. I guess this was a thing with this album. And as for content, okay, outside of the string of fried chicken and barbecue references that are just really making me hungry, Takeoff providing that he knows the correct denominations of currency in order to buy weed, Offset buying more things for his girl, and Quavo, okay, he's actually connecting a few decent punchlines here. The content is exactly what you would otherwise expect. Although I will say all this annoyed impatience about too many girls on Migos might not be the best idea when you're not making it seem all that funny or interesting or telling a story. Still, at least this is bombast. It's better. It's really what you should go to Migos for, so I'll take it. Number 58, Kelly Price by Migos featuring Travis Scott.
I get drugs for the right price, yeah. She gon' eat this Molly like it's rice. Eat it all. I'ma let that lean flow through my eyes. Lean. Say she never had a Migo night. I'ma make her say like Kelly Price.
So remember when I mentioned tonal problems on Get Right Witcha? Well, this is where we get the opposite case to that song. This is a track that reeks of auto-tune druggy incoherence, drenching Quavo, Takeoff, and Travis Scott to dead-eyed dreariness that does, of course, does not sound remotely fun. And sure, if this was meant to reflect on previous hustling that might have come in a bleaker time, that's definitely not anchored in the hook, or Quavo rapping about Popeyes and oatmeal, or Takeoff being too high to drive. So, okay, remind me why you want the arguably the darkest trap beat to date with atonal rattles punctured by women's screams? Come with the slower cadence, it tries to end up sounding so much more creepy than it actually is. And it's not like Migos' flow or content can sustain it. That's before we get Travis Scott thinking that the cocaine in his hair is a lice. No, I'm sorry, not doing this. Number 48, Slippery by Migos featuring Gucci Mane.
Got 2 cups of purple just to warm up. 2 cups, drink. I heard your bitch, she got that water. Splash, drip, drip, woo, splash. Hey. Slippery, wall, excuse me, please me, please. I'm up, oh believe me, get beat, cause I'm flexing Rari. You can bet on me.
So I talked about 5 Migos songs this week, and having already heard Bad and Bougie and T-Shirt, at this point, any desire for me to actually cover that album, it's gone. Seriously, what more is there to say about this? The production is painfully underwhelming, especially here, with the minimalist burble and piano beyond your standard chunky beat with droning vocals overlaid onto the verses, the usage of more ad-libs and actual rhymes to fill up the flows, and the same boring luxury rap that's devoid of any actual connecting tissue or storytelling or even good punchlines. And with Gucci Mane barely able to keep up, he adds nothing to this song on his verse. His flows just aren't on the same level. I'm left wondering why on earth anybody enjoys this stuff. The tonal dissonance between production and content and the lack of any sort of vocal passion just kills this for me. But at the end of the day, all Migos have are the flows and occasional moments of wit. At least Crunk at its best have beats and rappers with energy, and when you look at rappers who are actually known more for their flows than their actual content or any of their bars, at least Flo Rida knows his way around a decent hook. Just saying. And finally, number 38, Body Like a Backroad by Sam Hunt.
I know every curve like the back of my hand. Doing 15 and 30. I ain't in no hurry. I'ma take it slow, just as fast as I can.
This was one of the most highest selling tracks in the United States last week. It outsold most of what's in the top 10 right now. If you want any more evidence of steep cultural decline, well, it'd be that Sam Hunt got a pass at all, but this song is one of the worst examples yet. Seriously, let's break down the fundamental idea here. Because Sam Hunt knows all his girls' curves thanks to going down them so many times, he knows her body like a back road. This is at the level of Pat Monahan from Train comparing his love to garbage on Drive-By. Why in the nine hells would you ever think it's sexy sexy to compare your fiance's body to a road that's likely in poor repair, riddled with cracks, sand, and potholes, and more often than not gets no action. Oh god, the subtext here makes me want to hurl. And that's before we even consider the production. I swear, the opening nasal guitar line on Uncle Cracker's Follow Me had more depth, and at least that song took its beyond basic composition and put it with some production that dated, yeah, but it at least had groove. This brings in incredibly fake skeletal percussion to match the gang vocals, overdubs that try to build to this leering party vibe that makes my skin crawl, an attempt for a funkier guitar line and organ with no bass support on the bridge. Add in lines about driving down it going 15 in a 30 zone with his eyes closed. Enjoy your ticket, dumbass. And of course, it takes a swipe at the city girls who don't quite have curves like her, which doesn't even begin to make sense with the stereotypes, but he at least had to stretch his god-awful metaphor somewhere and says he can turn his girl's jeans inside out. He doesn't need any help. But of course, the line that tells me exactly what this song is, beyond just being one of the worst ass anthems and dubiously defined country songs ever written, it's "I'ma take it slow just as fast as I can," implying that he's trying to get through foreplay as quickly as possible so the rest of this meat-headed encounter can continue. So in the pantheon of horrendous Sam Hunt partial birth abortions masquerading as songs, where does this come in? Ugh, it's up there. You know, I might loathe ecstasy and drinking too much more, but this is easily the stupidest song to show up in the Hot 100 in a while. And yes, that's counting when Daddy Yankee made Shaky Shaky, another sleazy ass anthem that at least had a groove. It was better than this. In short, while Migos is netting a dishonorable mention for Get Right Witcha, I really couldn't stand that song. But nothing that I don't think they've ever released is quite on the level of awful that is Body Like a Backroad by Sam Hunt. Now for the best, man, this week sucked for new arrivals, but I'm giving it to Scared to Be Lonely by Martin Garrix and Dua Lipa. And honorable mention, you know, Call Casting by Migos is actually kind of decent. It's getting it. Man, you gotta hope the charts improve after this, because this was miserable. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.